first, let's just talk about some of the fundamentals of what workplace culture is. And I want you to start thinking through and putting in the chat some of your pain points that you have experienced, that you've discovered along the way, some of those pain points that you want to think about as you start to work on creating your culture. I'm also going to spend just a few moments talking about culture DNA and culture fit. But let's break it down a little bit and just sort of have some understanding of what is culture. When I think about culture, I think about the personality of the company. I think about how we treat each other. I think about how we connect with our customers. You see, culture is the engine that either limits potential or sustains success. The culture you create and the culture that you more specifically reinforce will determine your success. There's an example that I'd like to share with you. About 18 months into this role here at Premier Trailer Leasing, we had a branch manager who was a high performer as it relates to being a top revenue generator for the company, and had been in the business for 15 plus years. So he knew what he was doing. But the problem that we had is that he didn't treat people right. And there was, he didn't have respect for his colleagues. And so that came out over the course of time. And we were just in the mix of really putting together our strategy for culture transformation. And he wasn't buying into that. And after a couple of conversations and counseling sessions, we had to come to a dead end with that, meaning that he had to make an exit. Well, his exit sent culture shock throughout the organization because people saw how he added so much value, but more specifically, how much money he brought in. It was in that moment where we had to make a decision as an executive team. What were we going to allow? What message were we going to send to our team members? And that message was, we value you and we respect you. You see, today it seems that every forward-thinking company is focused on culture reinvention. And a healthy, vibrant, and a mature culture will drive success, and it will keep organizations ahead of the curve. There are so many factors that are creating disruption, though, in all sectors of the business, whether it is digitalization, globalization, and the need to operate at two speeds, fast in emerging economies, but slower in mature economies. You see, the scope, the size, and the market position are no longer the major differentiators. To stay ahead of the curve, leaders must always be rethinking, reshaping, and reinventing their own purposes as well as the purpose of the business. So it's no longer all about the company that you want to create. It is now much more about the company that you must create. When we get ready to hire someone and they ask us about Premier Trailer Leasing's culture and how they might fit in, they're always alarmed and astonished when I tell them, I don't want you to fit in. What I want is for you to come with the DNA of our culture that's already a part of who you are, because then your transition into this workspace will be easier. Your transition into this workspace will be seamless. So I want the DNA of the culture to be a part of our talent that we hire. And I want you to start thinking about, put in the chat, what are some of your pain points? What are your thoughts or concepts around culture fit? And we want to make sure that we not only explore that, but that we answer the questions that you might have. We've been hearing a lot about the Great Resignation, this pandemic trends that have just started up over these last 18 to 20 months. And they're at record numbers. Employees are leaving their places of employment. And we all know that are in the transportation industry about the shortage with drivers. And we're also learning that there is no affinity to the company. And I love to hear from you. I love to understand from you, why do you think that is? What are you hearing out in your space? What are people saying relative to why they're quitting their jobs? I want to hear from you. I want you to speak back to us and let us know what's going on in that space? I see that Shonda says profit over people, business dress over express and true self. And that is true. Indeed, we must make sure that we focus on our people, because if you get it right with the people, the profit will come. And so I'd like to also share with you a little bit of information as we continue to talk about the Great Resignation. I want to focus in on some trends that we've received from the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics. It has been reported, here are these numbers, that 2.9% of the American workforce, meaning that totals about 4.3 million people, quit their jobs as of August of this year. That record is alarming. It is just earth shattering to know that we have lost 4.3 million people in the workspace. And then the ATA reported that a truck driver shortage is at about 80,000. And they're forecasting that if we stay on this track, that by 2030, we will have a shortage of about 160,000 drivers. That means that we have so much work to do. So the topic is valid, the topic is relevant, and I'm really excited to see and to know that you're being proactive in your thinking because you're trying to get ahead of the curve to understand what can we do about this. There's also some thoughts in here that say that people want to work from Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Sarah says that. And Stephanie says there's also an opportunity, there's some lack of inclusion. So we see that there's some things that we can do. A tug of war between what candidates want on hybrid working. I hear you. We went through some of this, and you are definitely on track with some of the issues that we have experienced over the course of time, specifically within these 18 months. I'm going to share with you some trends and some homework that we've identified on some blogs via LinkedIn. We've tapped into some information, some surveys by Robert Half, and we've also consolidated some information in some studies by Prudential. The one thing that concerns people is, it's already been mentioned, people want work-life balance. 48% of Americans are rethinking the type of work that they want to do post-pandemic. Employees are not asking for, but they are demanding work-life balance, and some are just plain burned out. They said, you know what? I've had this opportunity when we made this shift during the pandemic to work from home, think I'm kind of liking this. And it really gave people a chance to process and think about what was important to them. And we're seeing a lot of shifts from that. Another opportunity as it relates to why people are quitting is they want better compensation and they want better benefits packages. Workers want pay increases, they want flexibility, and they want more wellness options. Let us keep that in mind. They want more wellness options. Folks are looking for more career advancement. That's why folks are quitting it as well. Robert Half did a survey and it found that 38% of the workers have felt stuck in their careers since the pandemic began. And then finally, it's why we're here today. It is the subject of the hour. It is the main topic that we're going to drill down further in, and that is culture, company culture. Employee engagement correlates strongly with employee retention. Prudential studies show that 42% want to leave due to employers' inability to maintain employee connectedness and culture during the pandemic. Isn't that interesting that people would have such an interest in connectedness, but employees are looking for more purpose in life and they want a reason to connect at a deeper level. And that's causing us to have to rethink how we do business. It's causing us to have to rethink things that we've done in times past, and more specifically, think outside of the box. And what we are learning is that the Great Resignation is really the Great Discontent. A new Gallup analysis finds that 48% of America's working population, they are actively searching for work, or they're looking for other opportunities. Gallup finds that it takes more than a 20% raise to lure most employees away from a manager who's engaged. So if that employee is engaged, they love their job, they weren't seeking for work, in order for us to get them, they're saying you're going to have to pay me at least 20% more. And next to nothing, however, on the other hand, if you're going after a candidate that is disengaged. Let's be mindful of that disengagement. If you see people that are not connecting, folks that have lost their way along the way, that is an opportunity for us to step in, pay attention, ask some questions, and get involved. And so when we read and we look to the right of this slide, we see that there are 4 elements that are needed for employee engagement. We must have commitment, loyalty, motivation, and trust is paramount. Employees want to know what to expect. So it's no longer come on board and we'll figure it out. They want to know what to expect. Employees want to know that they have opportunities to learn and opportunities to grow. The different generation factors, and that's a whole nother webcast within itself, it is also playing a role in this space of the Great Resignation. Employees want engagement. They want engagement that has reciprocal relationships with well-being. It is interesting the important part that well-being is playing in the space that we're in. Engaged employees are healthier, they're more resilient, and they're better performers. And it was interesting to learn from one of the studies, this Prudential study specifically, that they're even more loyal. And so what we're learning, obviously, is that it is an employee's market, and that the workplace culture has a lot of important factors in it. It improves staff engagement, it helps with employee retention, and it aids in your employer brand. We all need an employer brand. And so we see this as a golden opportunity here. So even if you are a company that have a great workplace environment, and if your employees are happy, now is the time for you to pause, take a step back, and look at your company culture, look at your company's diversity, and find ways to strengthen it. So let us not become settled. Let us not become comfortable in our well-doing where we feel that employees are really engaged at the moment. Because remember, the dial is moving and things are turning faster than we had anticipated. It is indeed an employee's market.